everyone, it's Holly Murray King, and we are back with the Emblem Knight's final draft, where I will be reading Chapter 11, Drowning Your Sorrows. Alright. Not complaining. Damn. I like that I improve. Let's see if it's better than Chapter 11 on the other one, where we met Alex for the first time. I don't remember what chapter it is on that one, but on this one it's Chapter 11. So let's find out. Yuri could feel her stomach growling under her hand. She groaned, knowing that she was extremely hungry. I should have brought some food. She winced again as her stomach growled, or at least brought some money. On the brighter side of things, Yuri knew the way to the town of Sorrows fairly well. When her parents were alive, they bought their liquor from the town, and she was the one who usually volunteered to go. The town was created for the worthless lowlifes that had nowhere else to go. They could choose to drink themselves to death, or they could eventually pull themselves together to go out and make something of themselves. The town made their money off of selling alcohol to outside towns and found tabs that are set up as soon as someone enters the town. Yuri knew better than to talk to any of the lowlifes that would kill you rather than look at you, but some of the patrons of the town just wanted a shoulder to cry on, and if you got on their good side, they were inclined to buy you a meal. Unfortunately for Yuri, it was a half a day's walk, but she kept herself motivated by thinking of what she could do to get herself some food. If only I could find an apple tree or some wild berries, she murmured to herself. An old peddler walked past her on the road as he was heading into town. That was when her stomach decided to growl loudly. "Young lady, are you hungry?" the old man asked her curiously. Yuri eyed him suspiciously. "Yes, I am," she said back to him, approaching him cautiously. "But I have nothing to trade for food." The peddler handed a loaf of bread towards her. "That is no problem. I have enough food to tide me over until I get to the next town. Just take it," he said to her with a gentle smile. "Why do this?" she asked him suspiciously. "Is there something wrong with it? Poison, perhaps? Or are you just being friendly towards a complete stranger?" She questioned him and backed away from the bread. "I must politely refuse your offer." The old man chuckled at her with amusement in his eyes. He waddled over to her and forced the bread into her hands. "Take it. You'll need your strength when you're on this road. Bandits are everywhere, and I would hate for a young lady such as yourself to be hurt by them." He then walked away without another word. Yuri watched as the old man walked around the bend in the road before she even looked at the bread in her hands. It looked fairly innocent on the outside. She tore it in half. The middle looked as safe as well. She smelled it, and her mouth watered. It smelled delicious. She then took a tentative nibble on the bread and waited as she began to walk again. It didn't make her stomach upset to have it in her belly. In fact, it made her a little more hungry. She weighed her options. She could just forego the bread altogether and not risk it. But then there might also be bandits up ahead. It was a toss-up. She decided it would be better to just risk the bread and not the bandits. She quickly ate the bread and continued on to hopefully get to town without an incident. When she could finally see the town in the distance, the so-called bandits were standing in between her and the town. They were pushing around a drunken man with blonde hair and green eyes. "Looks like I'll be lucky," she murmured to herself, seeing as the men were distracted by someone. She quietly approached the group, cautious not to draw attention. "Hey, look!" One of them spotted her. "Get her, men!" Yuri moved to get away, but there was already 2 men behind her, grabbing her under her armpits and drag her to the group. She started to kick and dig her heels in, trying to get out of their grip, but they held her tight. "Get off of me!" She tried to kick at the shins or knees of the men, but her legs weren't in reach. "Hey, you!" she shouted at the drunk as she got close enough to him. "We could take them together if you just need to get me free," she said to him, hoping he was in a helping mood. "Why would I want to fight them?" the drunk asked stupidly. "So that they won't kill you," Yuri cried out to him. "I don't have time for this. I have more important things to do," she growled to herself. Oh, she's not talking to him. Oops. "What's so important about your stuff to do?" the drunk asked, confusing himself. "I'm looking for someone, and unless your name is Alex, I'm just wasting my time here," she yelled at him. The man looked at her for a second. She rolled her eyes. "Is your name Alex?" A man emerged from the shadow of the gate to the town with a bottle of booze in one hand and a dagger in the other. "No. His name isn't Alex. That would be my name." One of the bandits pulled a dagger out from his belt and took a step toward Yuri. "Put your weapon down, or I'll cut this pretty little girl." Yuri bought her captor some more. You scum! Why would you threaten someone that can't even fight back? If you fought fair, I would beat you all into the ground with no problem. The bandits laughed at Yuri's threats. If you weren't such a wimp, you would never have gotten trapped in the first place, the bandit with the dagger said gleefully. Why not just break free of that hold if you are so good? So, how many you go, Alex? The drunk hiccuped. Alex eyed the man with skepticism in his face. I don't think you should help, Gold. Why don't you just sit this one out? Fine. Can I hold your booze? Gold asked as he sat down where he was standing. Get out of the way, you useless drunk, one of the bandits closer to Gold growled as he moved to kick the man. Alex swept out of the darkness, dropping the bottle of booze into Gold's hands and grabbing the bandit by the shirt front, taking him by surprise. What the hell? Don't you dare touch my friend, Alex growled in the bandit's face. Don't drink all my booze, Gold. Gold saluted Alex, swaying in his sitting position. Yuri observed Alex from where she was. He looked absolutely awful. Like he had just continually drank the entire 2 years that the group had been apart. He had an unkempt beard that made him look much older than he actually was, and his hair looked like he had sprouted spaghetti noodles out of his head. His eyes were so red you couldn't even tell what color they had once been. His shirt looked as though it had been white at some point in its lifetime, but now it looked like it had been torn from a sailboat. She could smell the rest of him from here. From his tattered pants and his worn-out boots, he seemed to have never changed them. Get him! The bandit leader ordered, gesturing towards Alex with his dagger. Yuri could feel the hands holding her in place go lax, and so she looked up to the two men holding her were distracted by the fight that was being brought to Alex. He was impressive to watch, even though he was a drunk. Yuri, however, took this as an opportunity to escape and help him. She didn't much like fighting dirty, but in this case, she knew it was the only way she could win. By using the weight of one of the men, she leaned on him with one foot off the ground and to sweep up into the crotch of the other man. He instantly went down holding his crotch in his hands and moaning on the ground. She then turned to pull the other man down to the ground with her as she rolled out of his way. Now it's a fair fight, she gasped in triumph, a huge grin on her face. She rushed over to Alex's side to help him fight. He swiftly kicked her out of the mass of blades and men. Stay out of this, girl, he called, fending off 6 men all at once. They have more experience at fighting than you do. So what? Yuri said, putting her hands on her hips. The leader saw her standing without anyone attacking her and rushed at her. You're drunk, she stated. She dodged the bandit leader by stepping aside just before the dagger touched her. The bandit leader tripped over his own feet with his built-up momentum. He growled at her for embarrassing himself. Yuri looked over at Alex with a smug look on her face. I won't even use my weapon for this loser, she said to him. Don't get cocky, Alex growled. It seemed every time he took a man down, there was another one. Enough, the bandit leader growled. He was turning red with rage. No more games. Just kill them, but leave the wench for me. The bandit leader lunged for Yuri. She sidestepped him once again, bringing his rage meter up higher. Well, Now you're just being a sore loser, she said to him. He lunged once more, and she kicked him in the stomach when he fell on his knees. She got close to his ear so he could hear her clearly. I know you're I know you're used to beating most women, but I'm not about to lose to you scum like you. Oh no, Alex shouted as he was still struggling against a bigger group of bandits than before. He was winning at least, but he was distracted for a moment. Gold, look out! Yuri had to jump back from a side slash from the bandit leader's knife, but she looked over to see the 2 of the bandits breaking off to go kill the drunken man sitting in the sand. Gold looked in their direction and hiccuped at them with no worry in his expression. Yuri was distracted for too long, and the bandit leader took this chance to stab Yuri in the throat. Instead of penetrating her skin, the knife disintegrated into the wind. The bandit leader and Yuri looked at it in surprise. Why didn't you die? The bandit leader demanded in disbelief. Yuri looked at the hilts of the dagger and made to grab for it as soon as her fingertips touched it. The dagger fell apart. She looked confused. Is this made of dirt? She asked the leader, confused. He looked back at her with no response, but just as at a loss. Are you an Emblem Knight? She asked. The bandit leader put a finger to his lips. Hush, he said urgently, looking about to make sure no one heard her. They'll hear you, he warned. Yuri looked at him, even more confused. Mike! Gold shouted, getting Yuri and the bandit leader's attention. They both looked over to see Gold hiccup with a sickly look on his face. I don't feel so good. A look of horror appeared on the bandit leader's face. Everyone take cover, he shouted. The men fighting Alex didn't need to be told twice. They quickly took a dive for the nearest cover, as far away from Gold as they could get. Alex noticed Yuri standing in harm's way, looking confused. He rushed over to her and grabbed her arm. Come on, he urged her. Yuri pulled away. Isn't he your friend? She asked him. Shouldn't we help him? Alex sighed. He didn't have enough time to explain in escaping time. Your funeral, he said before getting down under cover. He had missed Yuri's near death, and so had no idea what her abilities were. He was under cover faster than most of the men. Yuri observed the reaction of the men with mixed emotions. Alex was afraid of his friend, seemed like, and that made her nervous, but she felt compelled to help the poor drunken Gold, who had been completely abandoned by all the men, including the one that had defended him. The man hiccuped again with the same sickly look on his face. He could see Yuri approaching him and shook his head. Better get lost, girlie, he warned her. I'm about to blow. Yuri knelt down beside him, so she was eye to eye with him. I can see that, Yuri said to him with no hesitation, but I have a feeling I don't need to be afraid of it, she explained to him. That was when he exploded. It wasn't him puking or his body exploding into 1,000 pieces. It was thousands of icicles shooting out of his body in all directions. Multiple ones passed through Yuri herself, and her face grew white. She didn't feel any of them, but the worry was still there. When it was over, she puked off to the side. She heard clapping and looked up to see the senior advisor standing before them. Well done, he said, with an approving smile on his face. I'm impressed with you, Yuri. The bandit leader stood to look back at Gold, who was dangerously close to the senior advisor. Gold himself was looking paler than Yuri, and Alex was standing straight up, not sure of what move he should make. I cannot read. What do you want? Yuri asked, standing in front of Gold, so she could stand squarely in front of them she hated. And squarely in front of the man she hated. I want you, of course, the senior advisor said calmly, unmoving, and of course, your little brother. Yuri went tense at the mention of her brother. You leave my brother alone, she said fiercely. You will never land a finger on my brother for as long as I live. The senior advisor's eyebrows raised. Is that so? He asked and then frowned. Well, that is unfortunate to hear. Ah, there it is. Chapter 12. A Twist of Fate is the next chapter. We did it! Yay! Sorry. Nah. Sorry, I had trouble reading. My goodness, and my dog's barking in the background. I guess someone walked by. Well, one of them just wants outside, which is gonna happen very soon. But yeah, anyway, if you like this, please leave a like. If you think you know someone who might like this, go ahead and give it a share. Also, if you want to read it yourself, I will put in the description below the places where you can buy the book, and or I have it on my Wattpad too. Free. I don't mind. This is what I want to do, so I like sharing. If you absolutely hate this, what the heck are you doing here? Go move on with your life. I don't know what you're doing. But if you want more of this particular content, go ahead and subscribe. And I am also now wanting to read other people's stories. At least the first chapter. I don't want to read the entire book. I'm not going to do the same thing that I do for myself. But if you know someone that would like free advertisement for their book, i.e. anyone, then please let them know that I would love to at least read their first chapter so that they can have it shared. Otherwise, I wouldn't do the rest, just the first chapter. That's all I ask. But yeah, anyway, hopefully I will see you guys next time. Bye.